Good day, everybody, and welcome back to Notes from the Pastor Cave. And this is actually video note number 10. So we're up to double digits now, and we've done that just in I don't know 2-3 weeks, probably more like 3 weeks. And the exciting news for me is that we are up to 84 subscribers, and that's just kind of a number. But if you think of it the opposite way, backwards from 100, then we only need 16 subscribers to get to 100. So please help me out there. If we could get to 100 subscribers, great and wonderful things happen and begin to fall from the sky. And well, maybe not that, but anyways, 100 would be fantastic. So if you could tell your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones about this YouTube channel, Notes from the Pastor Cave, and if you could get them to subscribe, it would be an absolutely wonderful thing. As a lot of you know, we are going to be in Exodus 3 for a long time. Just incredibly rich chapter, and I'm practically crawling word for word with this. And so I'm just going to go ahead and get into this today because we are right in the beginning of this encounter between God and Moses, and it's what a lot of people refer to as the encounter of the burning bush. And it's right at the beginning of the chapter, and then that encounter goes all the way into chapter 4. So let me just read for you. In verse 3, Moses thought he sees this bush it's burning, but it's not being consumed. And so he, in verse 3, he says, Moses thought, I'll go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. Okay, so it would be perfect, as we've talked about in previous notes, it would be perfectly natural to see something catch on fire out in the wilderness. Brush fires happen all the time. But to see a bush catch fire and then not burn up, that's what really drew his attention. And then this really, and it's kind of sneaky. It's kind of a little bit strange to see here. Verse 4, when the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, here I am. So that's just one verse. As I said, we are moving very slowly through this. But very important phraseology here. When the Lord saw, and I checked it in a couple of translations just to make sure. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush. Okay. Now, the first thing, kind of a big picture thought here, is, and I think I brought this up in previous notes, but God is the great communicator. They used to call Ronald Reagan the great communicator. Nothing like God. God is the greatest communicator of them all. And sometimes in the midst of our troubles, when life gets hard, or if we are kind of dealing with the feeling that our relationship with God is not what it should be, we convince ourselves that God is not communicating. I mean, it's like, well, God just did, times are hard right now, and God just isn't talking, or or we say, I'm not living right. I'm not where I need to be. So I don't think God is really communicating with me. I don't, I think he's, and we think of a mad God, right? He's I kind of, me being from New England, I kind of naturally apply this New England countenance to God, where he's just kind of sternly sitting there with his arms crossed, and he just doesn't want to talk to me because, things aren't going right for me right now, and I've messed up in some way. Now, we really have to take that image of God, and we really have to kick it to the curb. We have to just really take it and really throw it, because that is not the God of the Scriptures. The God of the Scriptures is the great communicator. And you think about it this way, I once preached a whole series that was called, long title, I know, it was called All God Ever Wanted to Do Was Take a Walk with His Kids. Okay, and I went through the scriptures and all of the scriptures that talk about walking with God. And the first of those scriptures, of course, is in Genesis. It's Adam and Eve. So God would come down in the cool of the day, and he would walk with his human creation, and he would communicate with them, right, back and forth, back and forth, and that's something that he could do. He could do that with his angelic creation, but as far as his earthly creations are concerned, that's pretty much it. You're not going to have much of a conversation with a wombat. Okay, so he created humanity so that he would have humanity to communicate with. So God's primary desire is to have somebody to communicate with in us. Okay, so I don't know, what kind of college courses you had, or you actually could have learned this in high school, because I know I learned this in high school with certain speech classes and things. Did you ever talk about sender receiver relationships, right? And that's what we have going on here. And it's interesting to note that God sends a message to Moses before he even speaks to him. So God, in a sense, what happens is that God creates an atmosphere of communication. He creates this thing so that when he actually does speak, Moses is essentially ready for the conversation to happen. He kind of sets Moses up into the conversation rather than just appearing coldly out of nowhere. Okay, so there's a sender thing going on. God sends communication, and Moses receives that communication. And so God communicates with Moses. He initiates that communication without even speaking, but then, of course, the speaking part comes after that. And then another thing I want you to see this morning is that God waits for Moses to come within hearing. Okay, God waits for Moses to come within hearing. So Moses sees this. He says, "When the Lord saw that he had gone over, then he speaks." Okay, so he doesn't expect Moses, who's about 80 years old at this point. He doesn't expect Moses to hear him from a mile off. He could have certainly done some supernatural thing that would take place in which Moses would be able to hear him from a mile off. But he waits until Moses comes to within hearing distance for Moses. Okay? And that kind of speaks volumes to us as to the way that God deals with us and works with us. God works within the natural limitations of Moses. And God wants to work within the natural limitations of you. Okay? So once God wants us to do something, okay, and he always wants us to do something. It's just a matter of us hearing and finding out, okay? But once we figure out that God wants us to do something, okay, we're really, unless we disobey or unless we run away like Jonah from what God wants us to do, we're really in a can't-lose situation, because number one, God will work within our natural limitations, okay? So for instance, anybody who knows me knows that I'm really bad with mathematics. Okay, so God is not going to call me to go up to the high school and be a witness for Him by teaching complex mathematical concepts to students up there. He's not going to do that. He's going to work within the limit. He might ask me to go teach history. Because that's what I'm good at and that's what I know, okay? But he's gonna work within the limitations of me, of who I am, okay? Because he's created me to be who I am. He knows who I am, and he can work within that. So he knows who Moses is. And, he knows exactly how long it's going to take Moses to trot on over there to where he's within hearing distance and, what rocks he needs to go over and all those things. But he is eventually going to get there to within earshot of what God has to say. And then the second thing that I say is we're in a can't lose situation. Number one, God will work within our limitations of who we are. But number two, when it is required, he will supply the supernatural. Okay, so we can't lose if we apply ourselves to doing what God wants us to do. We can be assured that it'll be within the sphere of what we can do, and when it's not, when it goes beyond that or has to go beyond that, then God will supply the supernatural. I can't lose. Right? As long as I continue to work towards, plug along towards what it is that God wants me to do, God will make a way for that to happen because he'll work with me, and in the areas that require more than that, he will supply the supernatural of what needs to happen in my life. So I've gone a little long today. I actually had a little more to say, but I'll have to work it into something else. So have a great day. God bless you. Vita brevis gloria aeterna. Life is short. Glory is eternal. Have a great day.